Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador, thank you for being here. It's great to see you again face to face. I appreciate that too. Again, congratulations on USMCA and your work on additional agreements. And I have to say, as everyone has pretty much said here today, we value the relationship that we have on this committee with you and the expertise that you bring to the table with us on so many things. And what I'm going to talk about is a little bit redundant from what you've been asked already today, but forgive me if you will. You know, right now we have a public health challenge, obviously, and with that has come an economic challenge. And as such, we now have a national security challenge that I think we need to face. With this pandemic, it gives us the opportunity, as it should, for us to have an after-action review, to take a look and see what these challenges were, what our shortfalls were, what our vulnerabilities were, and what they are. You know, as we look at this, you know, one of the issues that obviously rose to the surface is the United States and some of our allies in the West, our reliance on adversaries for things of great need. You know, I was a doctor in Iraq. If someone had told me that our protective equipment and pharmaceuticals were coming from an adversary, we would be pretty surprised at that. And I think most people were caught unawares, or at least unaware of the potential danger that gave us. And I was in an interview not long after the pandemic started, and we realized we were short on supplies. And they said, "What's the answer?" And I said, well, what this administration has been doing, which is bringing manufacturing back to the United States. And I think that's the key. I give you and the President credit for bringing up the dangers of trade abuses and looking at China in particular, their strategic aims that put us at risk. But change is very challenging at this point. I think you said something a little bit earlier, like we could have really done a lot 10 or 15 years ago, but it's even tougher today. And I appreciate that. So we talk about a global effort from the West is one of the things going through my mind. Possibly strong, enforceable international agreements on medical goods, pharmaceuticals. And I look at something we debated here a couple of years ago with the running shoes that are given to our enlisted when they join the military, because uniform has to be 100% domestic. Well, there was only one running shoe that was 100% domestic, and we debated over that. And I find it ironic now that that was a big deal compared to what we're really taking a look at now, right? And because it's not that simple, and we see import-export restrictions, things that we really don't want to have happen. And we want to obviously encourage innovators and developers to be in the United States. But there's even challenges domestically. If you look at what happened in Puerto Rico a couple of years ago after the hurricanes, we were short on saline because we relied so much on one area domestically to produce something that's very necessary. So, you know, I think we're challenged with is what is our minimal domestic need and on what products, and what is our minimal domestic production and on what products, and retooling capabilities and things like that in manufacturing. And I guess, and this is going to require a lot of discussion, but I'll leave the time to you. What should Congress be looking at doing to address this problem that we all agree exists? What can we do in trade that we all agree can have a huge impact? And where do we start? How do we encourage the innovators to come back? Should we be looking at international agreements? You just said it could be a combination. I'm glad to hear the open-mindedness. It just, if you have any newer thoughts at what you've already shared today, I appreciate it.
Well, first of all, I, of course, completely agree with your conclusions, and the fundamental one is that we can never be in a position again where we don't have basic manufacturing. We think about these masks that we have, and we don't. I mean, how could we not have enough mask capability in the United States? It seems completely counterintuitive. And I would say, because I talked to some smaller countries, and their view is, well, we need a plan so we can all share. And look at that. Those kind of plans are fine. I don't want to be against them, but we have learned that in the final analysis, our closest allies will keep this stuff for themselves if it comes down to whether or not their citizens live or die, and so should they, and so should we. I mean, that's just. It's not rational to expect people to send us a ventilator because of some trade agreement if they needed to keep their people alive. It's just crazy, and we're not going to do it, neither is anybody else. So while working with other people and having these agreements is a good idea, but fundamentally, I believe I think the president believes the United States has to have the ability to make these things in this country. And that's going to require a combination of a lot of the things you're already done, but also I think it requires tariffs. I think personally, I think you have to have not crazy or out of control, but you have to have enough incentives so that you have enough capacity for these things in the United States when the next crisis comes.
Thank you. I yield back.